everyone, it is alenajingle again, and I am back today with video number 18 in the series I've been doing. This series is less popular alternatives to the top 100 boy names of the year 2014 in the US, and I have put the previous 17 videos in a playlist, and I will link that below in the description box. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about names 15 through 11. We are getting so close to being done with the boy names. And at number 15 in the year 2014 was the name Jayden with this spelling. There are going to be a lot of Jaydens out there since this name is at number 15 and it was more popular before. It used to be actually a top 10 name. I am really confused about how this spelling got so popular. I do think that Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith's son had something to do with Jayden itself rising in popularity. However, his name is not spelled with a Y, so I don't really know why it's popular. The only thing I could possibly fathom is that maybe it's to honor someone named Jay, J-A-Y, why people would use that spelling in particular. Jayden with this spelling first entered the top 1,000 boy names in the year 1994 and has been in the top 100 boy names since the year 2003. The first Jayden alternative I have is Jayden with this spelling. This is a Hebrew name that means thankful, really great meaning. This can also be pronounced Yadon. So the reason I include this as an alternative to Jayden, even with it having the same pronunciation, is that once again, if you are determined to use the name Jayden, or at least the sound Jayden, you might consider this spelling because it is a very old name, obviously since it's in the Bible and has a long history. The biblical Jayden was a man who's briefly mentioned in the book of Nehemiah in the Old Testament who helped rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. This is actually in the top 1,000 boy names at 864 right now, and it first entered in 1998. Like I mentioned earlier, someone who likes Jayden with a J-A-Y-D-E-N spelling might like this name because they sound exactly the same. My next Jayden alternative I have is Jade. This is, of course, a name in the English language that refers to the color or the semi-precious stone. This name is more popular for girls in the US currently. However, originally it was used equally for both boys and girls. There is a Latino entertainer named Jade Esteban Estrada, and Jade Puget is the guitarist from the band AFI. I actually went to school with a couple of guys named Jade, and I assumed that everyone thought of this as a unisex name, but the more I talk names with people, it seems that people do just assume this is a girl-only name. However, I think the sound is really strong and very cool for a boy as well as a girl. He was in the top 1,000 boy names from the years 1968 through 2001 and has not been in the top 1,000 boy names since 2001. I think that someone who likes Jayden might like Jade because, of course, it has a very similar sound. And my last Jayden alternative I have is Jayvan. Jayvan is a Hebrew name that refers to the country Greece. It would have been the word they used back then for Greece. Jayvan in the Bible is the name of one of Noah's grandsons in the Old Testament, and novelist Catherine Kurtz has a book series where one of the main characters is named Jayvan Haldane Durini. Always Jayvan is extremely uncommon, but I think the sound of this name is very accessible and fits in with many trends today in the US, and I think someone who likes Jayden might like Jayvan for its very similar sound. At number 14 in the year 2014 was the name Aiden with this spelling, which is a variant of Aiden, A-I-D-A-N, which means little fire. I mentioned in one of my last videos that there are two different spellings of Aiden in the top 100 boy names right now, and neither of them were the original spelling, which is kind of interesting to me. I first saw the name Aiden on the little boy from The Ring. His name is Aiden Quinn in that movie. He does use the A-I-D-A-N spelling for him. There's a punk rock band called Aiden. Actress Tracy Gold has a son named Aiden with this spelling, and singer Rod Stewart has a son named Aiden with this spelling. I do think Aiden is an absolutely gorgeous name, and I do get why it's became popular. However, it's unfortunately been so popular for so long and so well used with jillions of spellings that it's kind of become cliche and funny, and I do think it will be very dated in 5 to 10 years. With this spelling first entered the top 1,000 boy names in the year 1995 and has been in the top 100 boy names since 2003. My first Aiden alternative I have is Aiden. Aiden is a Celtic name that means wealthy. I first saw this name in an online story I read several years ago, and all of the names of the characters in that story were very out there, and I figured they were all just ridiculous names the author made up, and since I love names, I looked them up, and every single one of them was a real name. I was really shocked, and Aiden was the name of the male lead in that story I read. There was an English automobile made in the early 1900s called Aiden. Otherwise, this name is extremely uncommon, and I did not find much on it, but I think that someone who likes Aiden might like Aiden because they have a very similar look and sound. They're only one letter apart, and I think Aiden is wonderful. My next Aiden alternative I have is Arden. Arden is an English name that means Eagle Valley. Arden Blank is the name of the protagonist in a novel written by Sambhav Rathakar, who is one of the world's youngest fiction authors. I think he was in his early teens when he wrote that story. There's also an Elizabethan play, a tragedy, that is called Arden of Feversham, and Enoch Arden is the name of a poem written by Lord Alfred Tennyson. The name was in the top 1,000 boy names from the years 1902 through 1952, but has not been since then. I think someone who likes Aiden might like Arden because they're only one letter different in their spelling and they have a very similar sound. And I think Arden is a gorgeous name. I am seeing it brought up more in name communities. I would just love to see it used more in little babies now that it's being brought up more often. And my last Aiden alternative I have is Eamon. Eamon is the Irish form of Edmund, which means wealth protection. This name is also spelled E-A-M-O-N-N. You'd see that used more often in Ireland, and in the US I do see it spelled with the one N more often for some reason. My good friend Jenna used to work somewhere with children, and she came across a little boy with this name who was a very positive association for her, which made me love it even more, and I do think this name is extremely gorgeous. There is an English actor named Eamon Walker, and there is an R&B singer who goes by the name Eamon just on its own. Also, Eamon de Valera was the name of an early vice president in the Republic of the US before it became the United States. I think that someone who likes Aiden might like Eamon because they have a very similar sound and they both have a very distinctly Irish feel to it. Number 13 in the year 2014 was the name Logan. Logan is a Gaelic name that means little hollow. So Logan was a name for me that always felt very 90s. I never really got the appeal in it, but I didn't really think too much of it either way. And then about 4 years ago, I worked at a daycare, and there was a child there with this name who I just absolutely adored. I would have had him as my own child in a heartbeat. And he was a beautiful person and very, very well behaved, and he just made me adore this name. And so Logan actually used to be in my top combinations as a middle name, but right now we just have too many names to use Logan. I also really strongly associate this name with actor Logan Lerman, who I find a very positive association as well, and the Wolverine from the X-Men movies and comic books goes by the name Logan as well. Logan has been in the top 100 boy names since 1991, so it's definitely getting dated, and it's always been in the top 1,000 boy names, but again, I do think it makes a wonderful middle name. My first Logan alternative I have is Brogan. Brogan is a Celtic name that comes from the word that means shoe. I actually have an experience with a little boy named Brogan as well. I worked at an elementary school for a few years before becoming a stay-at-home mom, and there was a really, really sweet little boy there who was named Brogan, and he had a beautiful little sister too, and they were just precious, very shy, quiet children, and he made me really like this name. There's a child actor named Brogan Hall, but otherwise it's not a very common name at all. It was in the top 1,000 boy names from the years 2008 through 2012, but it is not currently, and I would love to see it come back into more popular use. I think that someone who likes Logan might like Brogan because, of course, they have a very similar ending sound. Next alternative I have for Logan is Lorcan. Lorcan is a Gaelic name that means little fierce one. There's an Irish actor named Lorcan Cranach, and one of Luna Lovegood's sons in the Harry Potter series is named Lorcan. There's also an actor named Lorcan O'Toole who is Irish as well. I couldn't find too many other associations with this name, but I think it is an absolutely gorgeous name. Again, fits in with the whole Irish names that are coming into popular use in the US, and also the two syllables ending in N names that are trending right now. And I think that someone who likes Logan might like Lorcan because they, of course, have a very similar sound. And my last Logan alternative I have is Morgan. Morgan is a Welsh name that means sea circle. This name is currently slightly more popular for girls, but it's going down in popularity for both boys and girls. Of course, I associate this name with actor Morgan Freeman, who is a very cool association in my opinion, and also actor Tracy Morgan, who is again a very good association for me as well. This name is currently ranked at 650 for boys in the US and has always been within the top 1,000 boy names in the US. It's really interesting because I used to have Morgan as one of my top girl names when I very first started making combinations, first and middle combinations for boys and girls when I was about 9 years old. Now I just really, really adore Morgan for a boy, and I think it's very handsome and sweet and underrated. And I think that someone who likes Logan might like Morgan because they both end in that G-A-N sound and just have a similar feel. Number 12 in the year 2014 was the name Benjamin. This is the English form of the Hebrew name Binyamin, which means son of my right hand. This is, of course, a biblical name. Benjamin was the youngest son of Jacob in the Bible, and his mother passed away during his childbirth, and she tried to name him Ben-Oni, which means son of my sorrows, and then his dad changed his name to Benjamin, which means son of my right hand, because he loved Benjamin. He is also associated with Ben Franklin, actor Benjamin Bratt, actor Ben Stiller and Ben Affleck. There are tons and tons of famous people with this name because it's been popular for a long time. I also associate this with the movie Curious Case of Benjamin Button, the band Breaking Benjamin, and then Benjamin Harrison was the 23rd president of the U.S. The name is actually rising in popularity right now, and it was only outside of the top 100 boy names from the years 1927 through 1968. It was still within the top 200 boy names even then. This name, I think, is definitely very overused. I've actually never personally cared for the sound of it, but I do think I understand why other people are drawn to it. My first Benjamin alternative I have is Ruben. Ruben is a Hebrew name that means behold, a son. This is a biblical name as well, and he was actually the oldest son of Jacob. So Ruben and Benjamin were brothers in the Bible. I really, really love the Ruben Studdard Association. He was the winner of American Idol, I think it's season 3, and he has probably been my favorite American Idol winner out of all the seasons. His name was actually used to be in my top boy names for a long time, but I just could never get my husband to like it, so I kind of gave up on it, but I still think it's very sweet. It's currently ranked at 848 in popularity in the U.S. It is rising in popularity and has always been in the top 1,000 boy names in the U.S. I think that someone who likes Benjamin might like Ruben because, like I mentioned earlier, they're both sons of Jacob in the Bible, and they are both Hebrew names, and both can go by the nickname Ben. My next Benjamin alternative I have is Bennett with this spelling. This is an English form of Benedict, which means blessed, wonderful meaning. And I specify with this spelling because Bennett is currently rising in popularity with the spelling ending in 2 T's. But I really love this spelling of Bennett with the 1 T because I am a huge Jane Austen fan, and I love the book Pride and Prejudice. And the main character is named Elizabeth Bennet, and there are several characters from that story that are her family members, and they all have the same last name, and it is spelled with just the 1 T, so I really love that association. This is actually not in the top 1,000 boy names with this spelling. However, the Bennett spelling with 2 T's is at number 166 and rising in popularity. I think that someone who likes Benjamin might like Bennett because they have a similar sound. They can both go by Ben, and it can honor a Benjamin as well. My last Benjamin alternative I have is Benson. This is an English name that means son of Benjamin or son of Benedict. I associate this name with beautiful actress Ashley Benson and the voiceover actress Jodie Benson, who did the voice of Ariel from The Little Mermaid. I also used to watch the show Law & Order SVU quite a bit, and the main female character is named Olivia Benson, so I associate that with her as well. This is currently ranked at 526 in the top 1,000 boy names. It has been in the top 1,000 boy names in the US several random years since they started keeping track, but actually not most years. I think that someone who likes Benjamin might like Benson because they have a similar sound. They both can go by Ben, and Benson could honor a Benjamin as well. And my last name for this video at number 11 is the name Elijah. Oh, I love this name so much. It is the English form of the Hebrew Eliyahu, which means Jehovah is God. The biblical Elijah was a major prophet. Very good association with that person in the Bible. I actually have a nephew named Elijah. Otherwise, I could probably use this as a middle name, and there are several similar biblical names that I love that I would consider using if I didn't already have a nephew named Elijah. I associate this with actor Elijah Wood, and singer Cher has a son named Elijah Blue, which I really like that combination. Elijah has been in the top 100 boy names since 1995 and has always been in the top 1,000 boy names in the US. This is one of those names I totally get why it's popular, and I love that it's being used so much. My first Elijah alternative I have is Elisha. This is a Hebrew name that means my God is salvation. Wonderful meaning. This is one of those names I mentioned earlier that I could absolutely use if I didn't already have a nephew named Elijah. Elisha kind of takes over Elijah's place in the Bible as a prophet, and he is a wonderful association as well. And football player Eli Manning is actually named Elisha Manning. He and his brothers have really cool names. Elisha is currently ranked at 739 in the top 1,000 boy names in the US and has been in the top 1,000 boy names most years since they've been started keeping track. I think that someone who likes Elijah might like Elisha because, of course, they have a very similar sound, and they are both names of Old Testament prophets in the Bible. My next Elijah alternative I have is Elias. Elias is a form of Elijah for many different languages, and of course means Jehovah is God again. Oh, I think this name is absolutely gorgeous. The name Elias is actually more popular in several European countries than in the US, but it is being used quite a bit in the US and rising in popularity. Elias was the middle name of Walt Disney, who was named after his dad, Elias Disney. There is also an actor named Elias Koteas, and in the New Testament in the Bible, Elijah is referred to as Elias. Robert Downey Jr. named his son extant Elias Downey, and this name is currently ranked at 103 in popularity in the US. It is very close to the top 100, so if you are concerned about using a name within the top 100 boy names, then I would definitely use this before it pops in there, which will probably be very soon. This has always been in the top 1,000 boy names in the US, and I think that someone who likes Elijah might like Elias because they have similar roots and meaning, and they are both biblical names. My last alternative I have for Elijah is Elya. This is a Slavic form of Elijah, which again means Jehovah is God, and this can also be spelled E-L-Y-A. There's a famous director named Elya Kazan who directed the movies East of Eden and A Streetcar Named Desire. I really love this name because my husband and I both adore the book and the movie Holes. And if you have seen or read that, you will know what I'm referring to because the main character had a great grandpa whose name was Elya Yelnats, and he is just a very funny and very cool character. Oh, I just love that so much. I have not ever met anyone with this name, but I think it is a wonderful name, and I think that someone who likes Elijah might like Elya because they have the same meaning and origin. And yeah, I think it's wonderful. I could use this name easily. That is my last name for this video. And please let me know what your favorites of the alternatives I listed were and any others I didn't mention that you like for these names. And thank you again for watching. Have a good day.